have Mahima Saran. She'll be speaking about Amazon Q for developers, transforming the developer experience. Mahima is a senior technical consultant at AWS India. Over the last 19 years, Mahima has been involved in crafting solutions to solve a multitude of engineering and domain problems. Currently, serving as a senior technical consultant at AWS, Mahima manages key FSI customers in India. Mahima has successfully led numerous high-impact campaigns and initiatives across various industries, including e-commerce, banking, and insurance. Mahima's expertise lies in crafting compelling natures, driving customer engagement, and leveraging data-driven insights to drive business growth. Mahima enjoys conducting workshops and advocate people on various emerging technologies. Mahima has been a speaker at several external and internal technical events. We welcome you, Mahima.
Thank you so much for such an elaborated introduction. I just think, I'll try to fall into the shoes that you have already put me in. Hi, guys. Are you all awake? Yes. Did you had a good breakfast today? How's the Josh? High. Very less. How's the Josh? High. How's the Josh? High. All right, guys. So before I begin my session, there is something that I started and it has really worked for me. This is a very Amazonian thing that we do at Amazon before beginning our sessions. So let us try it out here as well. I want all of you to please stand up. Yes. I don't want all of you to be, very lazy today. So now please give a high five to the person on your left. Now give a high five to the person on your right. Done? Now do a huge round of applause. Okay, the round of applause is not for me. It is for the entire community of Kochi who has organized such a brilliant event. Thank you, Kochi team. All right, thank you so much, everyone. Please be seated. I hope I have your attention now. So let's begin the session. So before beginning the session, little bit about myself. I know you don't want to know too much about me, so I'll give you very less details. I am a technical account manager at AWS, mainly working with financial customers, banking sector. So bigger banks, I'm mostly working with, hearing all the security and everything day in, day out. I'm passionate about traveling. I'm passionate about public speaking, as you know. You will be finding me in most of the AWS community events, speaking, traveling here and there. So traveling, speaking, connecting with people is my passion. So if any one of you wants to connect with me, I would be here full day. I will be there and you can network with me at any point of time. If you have any questions related to any AWS services, Amazon Q, or any other AWS services, please feel free to reach out to me. I have overall 19 years of experience in AWS. This is my LinkedIn handle. You can reach out to me or connect with me on this. So this is the agenda that we will be discussing today. I've not kept it too much technical for all of you because I know we have a mixed crowd. So I'll be generally speaking about what are the challenges that we are facing today with respect to GenAI, right? We are hearing a lot of buzz around GenAI, what is GenAI? But most of the time we don't even know where to begin, what are the tools which are available. In the morning we had a brilliant session from 2 keynote speakers covering about Bedrock, the various LLM models that we have, what is Amazon Q. So I'm not going to go on basics, but I'll try to solve some of the problems that we are facing as developers today and how Amazon Q can solve these problems, okay? So let's begin. I have very fantastic demos as well. So raise your hands. How many of you are developers in the crowd? Quite a few. Tell me, how much time do you spend on a day-to-day basis fixing some of the bugs, issues that you are facing? How many hours? Anyone? So do you spend more time in coding or do you spend more time in fixing a coding issue? Fixing, right? Most of the time, we are able to find the code online. We are able to copy the code, paste it, try it out. But most of the time, we struggle that this is an issue which we have. And you have to find too much of time in analyzing the issue and fixing it. How many of you have to look for accurate documentation before even starting? Like, if you know this is a code that you have to write, this is a functionality that you have to write, on an average, how much time you are spending on a day Googling about these documents, Googling about what code to write, what services to use? How much time you are spending? Do you spend more time in coding or do you spend more time Googling about all of these different services that you need to use. So what is easier? Writing a code is easier, or finding the solutions first, fixing the errors is more difficult? Fixing the errors, right? Understanding what is the problem in your system and fixing it. So that is all about it. So if we see, this is one of the Gartner reports that I am presenting, where Gartner has said that generative AI supported work tends to be more efficient and of higher quality than the work which is produced by unsupported human workers. And he is also saying that we can improve the developer productivity by 30% if we are using some of the best generative AI based tools that are available in the market today. So let's take a look. So what are some of the challenges that we are facing today? Any one of you using any of the generative AI tools today for your development life cycles? What tools you are using? Q. Okay. What else? Copilot, right? GitHub Copilot, right? For writing your code, Microsoft. So there are various tools which are available in the market. And these tools basically help you in generating the code, right? You write a line and then the code is generated. What else are you using these tools for? Are these tools able to help you in fixing your bug? Are these tools able to analyze what you are actually doing and what is the wrong thing that you are doing? No, right? So some of the challenges are, lack of context, okay? I'll give you a very simple example. Let's say you are organizing a dinner party with a Michelin, star chef. You ask him to prepare a meal for the dinner party, but you don't give him an understanding that what is the party about. It is a birthday or it's an anniversary or anything else. You don't tell them who the guests are, what are their meal preferences, where do they belong to. So what will happen at the end? You might end up in a party where the guest might be surprised because the chef has prepared a dinner which is very elaborative and people were surprised, or your guest may go hungry, correct? This is a situation. Same is happening with Gen AI today. You might have all the brilliant tools in the market, but they don't have a context of your business, right? They don't know your business use case. What is your business use case? What type of code you want to generate? What is the history of the code that you have? What code repositories you already have, right? That you can reuse. You don't have to rebuild everything from scratch. So there's a lack of context when we talk about today's tools that you are using. The second thing that we see is security, right? We are using various online tools like ChatGPT, Copilot, but if these are online tools, do you completely rely on these tools? Would you be able to share your database URLs or your internal EC2 instance IP addresses or any other secrets? Would you be able to use those platforms to directly review your code or generate your code? No, right? You will be using them for generic code generation, but ultimately you have to write it in your own IDs and check whether it is working or not. You have to spend so much of time in fixing these errors. At the same time, data privacy and compliance. So if you're working in banking sector or FSI sectors, you know how important compliance is. You want to understand whether the code that you are generating, the application you are generating, is it compliant with various standards that we have, like the CIS benchmark. When we talk about RBI guidelines, they always say that we have to work on the CIS benchmarks. For example, containers you are working. So you have to follow the CIS benchmarks and various benchmarks in compliance purpose. But these tools will not be able to tell you whether they are compliant or not. So these are some of the key challenges that we are facing in the industry today, although we have so many Gen AI tools available. So this is something that I told you, right? As a median developer, what we have observed is, on a day's time, you are spending less than 1 hour in coding, okay? And most of the time is going into fixing these errors, finding the codes, finding the best practices, how to write this code, how to deploy your code, or how to actually create your infrastructure, right? Infrastructure as a code. You have to write certain scripts, you have to write your various infrastructure as a code, Terraform scripts in order to deploy your codes, build your infrastructure. So there are many steps that you have to follow. And we see that code generation is very, very small part of it, right? Writing a code is the smallest part of the entire SDLC cycle that we are talking about. So where are developers spending time in the SDLC cycle? Let's take a look at this. So this is a basic SDLC life cycle that we follow, right? You plan, create, test, operate, and then maintain. Very first thing is plan. So what do you do when you're planning for your, let's say there's a new project which has come up. You have got the business requirements, but you need to now plan. what is the architecture that I need to use, right? What all services I would be using, how to use these services. You have to find the documentation on that. You have to prepare your LLD documents, your high level, low level documents, correct? You have to accurately understand whether the networking architecture that I have created, does it fit with the requirement? Does it fit the security requirements? Does it fit with the, privacy requirements? Whether your EC2 instances should be facing publicly or they should be inside a private subnet, right? There are so many things that you have to first identify whenever you are talking about planning itself of your entire life cycle. Second thing is, let's say the design has been created. Now your business, BDs have told you that there's a change in the design. Now again, you have to redesign your architecture. You might have to make some changes in your documentation. So there's a lot of work even in the planning phase that you have to do. We talk about create, so this is something like generating the code. So I know there are so many tools available in the market where you can write in natural language, you can write the command and it will generate the function for you. But that is one very small subset of it. Then you have to manage the infrastructure, right? You don't only have to write the code, you have to write your infrastructure code also. In order to create the infrastructure where you are going to deploy your applications, you have to build your CI/CD pipelines. So there are so many tasks that we are talking about. The next thing that we apply is test and secure. So maybe you have created the case, but you have created your code, but at the same time now you have to understand whether the proper test cases are created or not. You have to write the test cases, you have to run these test cases. You have to scan for security vulnerabilities, right? So let's say if you are talking about containers, if you have created a container image, you have to run the security vulnerability, whether there are any things which are bug, which is not failing, which is not passing, right? So there are so many things that you have to do even before you're deploying in your UAT environment. Operate. Now this is the most interesting thing. Like once you have created the code, you have tested the code, when you actually deploy it and users start testing it, that is where you identify there are so many bugs in your application. The actual functionality is not the way it is working. There was some other expectation and our application is working in a similar, not in a similar fashion. There could be n number of changes. Now again you have to do right from the beginning. Maintain and modernize. Again, there are scenarios where we are working with legacy applications and the tedious task is now you have to migrate them to or refactor your code to a new application. Another thing is you are running on an old version, let's say Java version. You are running on Java 8 and you want to upgrade to Java 16 or Java 17 because the code has become very, very obsolete now. So imagine thousands of lines of codes that you have, the thousands of AMIs that you have created. Now you have to convert them to Java 18, or you have a very obsolete OS version. Let's say you are running RHEL 6, right? And you want to convert to the latest operating source. So how would you do that? It turns out to be a humongous task because you need a team who is going to sit, understand this code, what is the code written, and then they have to migrate that code to the latest version, right? See, these are the problems that we are facing and this is where majority of the time of the developers are going today, correct? So how we can solve it? We can solve it using Amazon Q Developer. So what is Amazon Q Developer? Anyone would like to answer that? Have you used Amazon Q Developer anywhere, or Amazon Q, the chatbot that you see when you log into Amazon console? Anyone has used it? Anytime? So what use cases? Anyone would like to tell me a simple use case for which you have used Amazon Q for Developer? Troubleshooting error. What else?
I can add one recent incident which happened within my account. As you know, we gave a there was a demo which I have given in the Rajasthan ACD, and I showed the AWS Canva demo. When I did the demo, in the back end, AWS has started something called as ML Flow, and for that it has provisioned a small EC2 instance for it. And it was not visible within the complete AWS dashboards, everything. And I got a very huge bill. Yeah, so then I was just trying to find out what is that and why it is showing in the bill. I could not find any traces of it navigating through all the console of the studio, SageMaker Studio and all. Then I asked Amazon Q that this is the name or the details I am getting in my billing records. Then I put it there, and then it showed me that yes, there is something called a transaction server which is running, and this is the name, probable name of that. And then I went to the CLI. It was not able, I was not able to see within the console and all. And then I went to the CLI, I checked it, and in fact it showed me that there was a server which is running, but it was not visible. And when I tried to delete it, it was not deleting. So that was the one use case I have just recently explored with the Q developer.
Use case. So like
Yeah.
Before this session, we were talking about cost optimization, right? Cost is one of the biggest concerns when we talk about cloud. It's always ever increasing for the customers, and managing it becomes overwhelming for everyone. So Amazon Q, just like Amazon Q has 3 formats. One is Amazon Q for developer, Amazon Q for business, and Amazon Q for quick site. So what he was talking about is, like, you have Amazon Q for developers as a console, right? In the console, the chatbot appears. You can type your questions over there and it will try to answer. Now what Amazon Q, the best part about Amazon Q is, it is an integrated tool within your Amazon console itself. So when you're logging into your Amazon console, you can click and Amazon Q is available for you. You can type any of your questions over there and it will reply. The thing is, it has a context, like we were talking about lack of context. Now when you're using Amazon Q for developers, it already has a context about your existing infrastructure which is running on Amazon, all your accounts. So it has a visibility into your accounts, it has a visibility into your networking, connectivity, it has a visibility into all the resources that you are running. So when you are asking a detailed question about something that is running in your environment, you are able to get the answers. So same happens for developer also. So I'll talk about it in later slide. But what Amazon Q is, it reimagines the experience across the entire SDLC lifecycle. So we discussed about the various problems and the issues and the various phases you go through when you're writing your SDLC lifecycle. So how Amazon Q is going to help you in that, we'll see in upcoming demos as well. It helps developers build secure, manageable images. So because Amazon Q is based on Amazon, and it is following all the architectural best practices that has been there with AWS. So it is following all those best practices. So when you are typing a question, it is giving you firstly a personalized recommendation. So it is not giving you a generic recommendation. It knows your underlying infrastructure, it knows your underlying code, and on top of that it is replying you. So it's a very personalized response that you are getting, not a generic response. It is secure. Why it is secure? Because it is not able to access any data outside Amazon. So let's say if anything is outside Amazon, it does not have access. It only has access to the data which you have access as a user that you have logged in. So let's say you've logged in as a user XYZ. So whatever access you have as that user, that particular Amazon Q will also have access to that user only, user data only. It is reliable because your data is not going to go out of your infrastructure. So in your Amazon console, in your account, whatever data relies, the Amazon Q will have access only to that data. So it is reliable, secure, and at the same time it has a context of what you are talking about. So it is going to give you a personalized response based on your queries. It helps you to write, debug, test, optimize all the lifecycle things that you follow when you are writing your code for your software. It is going to help you in each and every stage. And it converses with you with AWS capabilities. So let's say you are unfamiliar with one of the new services which has been launched. You want to understand what that service can do or how to implement that service. So instead of going to Google and reading the AWS documentations, you can write your question over there and it is going to reply you based on what the question you have asked. So you can ask very specific questions, you can ask generic questions as well. So let's take a look. Amazon Q is available everywhere. So let's say in your AWS consoles, you have Amazon Q available. In your IDs, so it is supporting your visual codes, it is supporting your Eclipse IDs. So you can have even the Chrome browser based plugins installed for Amazon Q. So these Amazon Q AI powered chatbot will be available to you in all your appliances, even in your mobile. So let's say in your AWS documentation, if you open an AWS documentation and you don't want to go through each and every line, but there's a particular thing that you want to search. Let's say which particular EC2 instance gives me 2x the power, or GPU based instances, what is the price of this GPU based instance. You can type your specific question over there and it is going to respond back. Let's say you want to do a comparison, like what is the cost of an EC2 instance in on-demand versus savings plan versus RI. So it is going to give you that kind of comparison. Then AWS console mobile applications also it is available. Slack and Teams. So another thing is now if you're using Teams already in your offices, or if you're using Slack, you can integrate Amazon Q over there. And at the same time, you can use Amazon Q in Code Catalyst also. So how Amazon Q is helping developers spend less time in the SDLC? Let's take a look at it. So what you can do is, you can chat with Amazon Q Explorer, you can see all the capabilities that Amazon Q has, and then it is going to give you exactly the same thing. So let's see a demo. Can you please play this demo? So you can see here, this is Amazon Q. It is asking a question, how do I build an application with AWS? What are the best practices? It is going to give you a documentation on this. So this icon that you can see on the left hand side, this is a widget which is available as an Amazon Q in your all consoles. You log into your console. Sometimes if your company is not allowing Amazon Q, maybe it is by default disabled. You might have to enable that with giving AWS permissions. You have to give an IAM role policy and permission in order to enable it if it is not already enabled. But my suggestion is this button called Amazon Q for console, it is free of charge. So you don't have to pay anything if you are already using Amazon Q. So just click that button, try asking all the questions that you have related to AWS or anything, and it is going to try and answer it. So in your plan and explore and plan, this is something that we can do. When you are starting your application, you want to understand based on your architecture, what are the AWS services you need to use, what are the best practices of these AWS services, and how to use these AWS services. Then this is where you have to get started with. Second thing is code generation. So anyone knows about Code Whisperer? Have you heard about Code Whisperer? So that is where actually the idea of Amazon Q came for developers. So Amazon Code Whisperer is another tool which integrates with your IDE, and that is where you can write inline codes, and according to the natural language comments that you are writing, it is going to generate the function for you or generate the code for you. Very, very similar to Copilot, right? So this is an AWS version of Copilot that I am talking about. So we had Code Whisperer, which was actually doing the same thing for you. It was integrated in your IDEs, where you can actually write down what you want to generate. It is going to generate that code for you. Can you please play this video? So you see here, this is a code, okay? Now, if suppose you say explain the code, so it is going to explain the code for you. Now imagine a situation, you have recently joined a firm, and there are hundreds of lines of code that you don't understand. You just want a summary of what this exact function is doing. You can actually point that this is a code and you just want an explanation of that code. Amazon Q is going to explain the entire code to you. And it is also going to give you a summary of what exactly this code is doing for me. So it is going to save so much of time when you're working with a legacy application or an already developed application and you want to understand how to enhance it or fix a bug about it, which you have not written, correct? So this is about explaining the code. Can you go next, please? This is another optimizing the code. Now, where we were talking about that optimizing the code, understanding that if you have written the code, but this is not exactly what you wanted, you want another things to be added to it. So you can optimize your code, you can write what you want, and it is exactly going to develop it accordingly. Can you play this video now? So it has selected the code, and now we are saying optimize the selected code over here. So let's see what it is doing. So we are writing optimize the code with a better algorithm. It is generating the code for you. You can review the code and then you can paste the code in your actual files. So it will also explain what this code is doing, what optimization it has done for you. See, so it has given you the code. You can exactly use this code that is given over here. Now the second thing is writing unit test cases. Another area where you have to spend so much of time. So Amazon Q can help you there also. Can you play this video, please? So select the code for which you want to generate the test cases, and it is going to generate the test cases for you. So we are writing here, write a unit test case for the selected code, and it is going to generate the case codes for you. right? Now the best part, one more thing which I would like to add is, you can customize Amazon Q to link to your existing code repositories. So in that way, it is going to give you a personalized recommendation of your code, the writing style that you have, all the codes which are already there and you want to reuse those codes, some of the algorithms that you have already written, and you don't want to go and search your code repositories for that. So you can give a reference. Let's say you have stored your code in one of the Git repositories. You can give an access, customize Amazon Q to have access to that, and it is going to have access to that code, and it is going to give you a personalized view or recommendation based on it. Same way, test and secure. We saw how unit test cases can be done. Another functionality is to test a security vulnerability test. You want to see if your code that you have written is vulnerable to any security bugs or anything. That is also where this Amazon Q can actually help you. Please run. So it is going to generate certain recommendations based on the vulnerability test that it is going to do. See here. So you have selected the code. It is actually telling you what are the areas where security vulnerability is, and it is also giving you the code in order to fix it. So just imagine the amount of time you are going to save, because this is all manual work that you are doing on a day-to-day basis. Now no more you have to do it manually, right? It will give you the suggestion. All you have to do is try and test whether it is working for you. If it is not working, you can ask other questions to them, whether this is the work that I want to do or this is something else that I was asking. This is not what I need. So you can always go back and ask any specific question with respect to the response that has been given by Amazon Q over here. In terms of operate, it can diagnose, troubleshoot errors in the console. So let's say you have written an error and there are some human errors or there are some error in your code. It is going to diagnose those errors as well. So let's take a look at that also. Okay, I think it is not a video. No worries. So it is going to analyze. So another thing which I forgot to talk about is so let's say you have the biggest challenge when I work with day in day out with the customers is not only coding. So let's say you have written your entire infrastructure as a code. You see that you are not able to SSH into an EC2 instance. Very, very basic problem, right? It could be because you have not enabled port 22. It could be that you have created an EC2 instance in a private subnet and there is no public access available to that EC2 instance, right? So there could be n number of reasons. Now, how would you identify? Either you have to manually go and check each and every security group that you have created. You have to go and check your subnets, routers, everything. Or else, you can actually ask Amazon Q, this is my EC2 instance, why I am unable to SSH into this instance. It is exactly going to diagnose the network connectivity of your entire infrastructure, and it is going to tell you why you are not able to access it. So it is, if suppose there is a route table that you have created, and there is something that you have written wrong because of which your packets are not getting delivered, it is going to analyze your entire network connectivity and it is going to tell you exactly where the issue is. So it is not only at coding level that you will be using Amazon Q. You can use Amazon Q for diagnosing errors at your networking level, at your infrastructure level also, right? You can also understand why your database URL is not working, why your database is down. So n number of issues which you face when you are deploying your code or when you are running your code, all of the issues could be diagnosed by Amazon Q over here, because most of the time you end up, checking your deployment files, checking your logs. Let's say someone has made your S3 bucket public, right? This is a huge error and there's some breach happening. You can go to Amazon Q, you can identify this is my S3 bucket, what is exactly happening. It can check, identify what is the kind of permissions are there with the S3 bucket. It can tell you whether it is publicly accessible or not. You can identify what is the bucket policy for this S3 bucket. Okay, you can diagnose your IAM roles and policies that you have created. So all the resources that are running already on AWS, if you want to understand what is the basic issue with these services, you can go to Amazon Q, ask about these specific questions, and it is going to reply you back. So it is not only related to your development code that I'm talking about, but also at an overall infrastructure level that you can understand what is exactly going wrong with your application. So some of the best practices when you are using Amazon Q is break down complex tasks. Don't expect Amazon Q to by default know what all things you want to understand and what things you want to write. So let's say this is an example. You want to develop an application, okay? So you have to explicitly say what all files it needs to generate, right? It needs to generate a README file where all the context of the application would be there. You want it to generate and integrate with, let's say, containers, EKS cluster it has to create. You have to ask him to create your configuration files. You have to ask him what kind of CI/CD pipelines to be created. So all the things that you want to create as part of this entire application, you have to specifically write those things. So break down complex tasks into small components. Write specifications of each of these components that you want to develop. Be specific about your intentions. And use requirement style descriptions. So for example, on a page, UI page that you have developed, you want to add your avatar over there, right? You want an avatar to be added on the first page or the second page. So be specific about what kind of requirement you want to use over here, right? Review and iterate. So whatever code has been given, just don't blindly trust and use that code in your production environment. Please test it, review it in your UAT environments, and then only deploy it in your production environments. Another thing, because time is running, so Amazon Q can also be used for, transforming your code. Let's say you are refactoring an old application to a new application, or you want to upgrade your application from an older version to a newer version. So for example, you are running on Java 8, you want to upgrade to Java 17. That is a version that currently is being supported by Amazon Q. So you can upgrade using Amazon Q on a click of a button. You can showcase that this is my code, I want to upgrade it to the latest version. It is exactly going to give you the code that you can replace with. Please test it, review it, and then you can deploy it. So these are some of the steps that you can do in order to, fix or apply the changes or upgrade your application to a latest Java version. Now same things you can do for writing your infrastructure as a code. So let's say you are using CloudFormation scripts or Terraform scripts, right? There are various infrastructure as a code services available. So Amazon Q will be integrating with them also, and they can help you in writing your infrastructure as a code as well. It is not only your Java code that could be written. Currently, .NET is not supported, but soon we will have .NET support also coming in to Amazon Q. So this is a summary, although we have plethora of cases where you can use Amazon Q, but these are the 3 takes from my end. Retire your technical debt at scale. What it means is you are running a lot of code which is deprecated in your lambdas, in your IDs, which are older in version. You might be running many AMIs or operating systems which are older in version, and you want to do the upgrades. You want to upgrade them with the latest OS patches. So use Amazon Q for such tasks. Right? Drive developer productivity. Wherever possible in your development life cycles, try to embed Amazon Q to automate the tasks where you have to spend a lot of time and hours, Googling it, trying to understand what is the solution. And improve security and code quality. So let's say you've written a code or someone else has written the code. You want to improve the code quality over there. Amazon Q can or a click of a button is going to help you in solving all of these challenges that you're facing on a day-to-day basis. So thank you so much, guys. This was my session. This is the feedback. So feedback does matter in AWS. If you have any feedback for me, please do scan this code and provide a feedback for the session. Thank you so much. But I'm now available for any Q&A. Is the time up? Or we have time for Q&A?
We can have a 5 minutes for question and answer session.
Guys, we can have 1 or 2 minutes for question answers, please.
That it is free when we are using it from Amazon console? But
No, only limited features are free.
Yeah.
So let's say if you launch Amazon Q for developer only for a console access, it is free. But if you want to use it for development purpose, then you have to pay for the license.
We need to justify that cost as well to the
Of course.
yeah,
I think
for sure.
do a POC, showcase to your managers, see how brilliant this is. Then you will get
Yeah.
the approval.
Yeah, thank you.
Node.js, I'm not sure. Reactive Go is supported, is what I understand. Go is supported. React.js is supported. I'm not sure about Node.js. You can check online. I think PHP is supported. Python is supported. PHP is supported. Java is for sure supported. Only I think there are certain .NET components which are not yet supported. So even, we are going to bring in functionalities where you will be able to transform, let's say, a .NET code into a Linux-based code. So those kind of transformations also will be there in future, but as of now, it is not there. It does work. I think majority of the things also depend on like what is supported, what is not supported. So let's say if the entire infrastructure is on AWS only, your database is also on AWS, your entire infrastructure is running on AWS, then Amazon Q will be brilliant in helping you change your libraries, your dependencies. I think you're talking about that. So when we are writing a code, we have a lot of dependent libraries, right? All of those, Amazon Q will be able to help you. But what happens is, Amazon Q is a tool, right? It's a chatbot. So it is going to give you a recommendation. Now you have to test this recommendation, how it is working. If it is not working, you ask Amazon Q specifically that this particular line is not working. Give me a suggestion for this. Or change this line and give me a dependency on this particular version. So it is going to generate that. So it is not like you type one line and it is exactly going to give you what you are expecting. There might be iterations that you have to go through, because you have to be very, very specific in what you exactly want. Any further questions? Sure.
My question is regarding how we can compare with Copilot and Amazon Q, because I'm more into Copilot last couple of years. So
Really sorry, I have not personally used Copilot,
Okay.
being in Amazon for last 5 years. My bad. But I won't be able to give you the apple to apple comparison over here. What I can give you is, if you're using Amazon heavily, right? If your infrastructure and your services are running on Amazon, then if you're using Amazon Q versus Copilot, then it will be beneficial because it will give you more personalized understanding, more personalized recommendations as compared to Copilot. Because AWS is following all the AWS well architected practices. So that might not be there in Copilot right now. So it is more specific to AWS that we are talking about here. Sure. Any other questions? All right, guys. Thank you so much. You were a wonderful audience. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mahima, for such an amazing session about Amazon Q. Now, as a token of heartfelt gratitude, let me invite Sarika, our co-organizer, to give Mahima a token of love.
Thank you. Thank you for joining.